Hi there, it's Matt. I'm here to show you my new game, Kayak Challenge Black Club River. Now, for those of you who have watched previous ones of my playthrough how-to videos, I usually do an animated video. This one turned out to be a little tricky for a couple of reasons, but I'll show you a little intro that I did so that maybe at least get that feel. So here's the logo for the game. Kayak Challenge, Black Club River. It's a standard tech game. It's by me. Solo, takes about 10 minutes. I go farther in over there on the other one too, but then I ran into issues which makes it easier to show with actual cards. Well, actually not actual cards because they don't have the space to show with actual cards today. So I'm going to show you a little, just a basic PCIO room that I put together to show this. So the idea of this game, if I pull up the rules here, the story is deep in the forest lies one of the toughest challenges in the world of kayaking, Black Club River. The currents swell and bubble in unique club-shaped patterns. The most famous and difficult part for kayakers is the part that runs through a rock tunnel. You've been training and you're finally ready to attempt the dark passage. You've equipped your headlamp and you've pushed off the shore. There's no going back now. You passed the challenge. So you're a kayaker, you're going to go into this dark place where you can't see everything at first. And you have to try and navigate to the end of the section without running out of cards. So basically how you play this game is you separate the cards into, you have a river deck, which is just separating, taking a standard deck of cards and putting all the clubs and diamonds into one deck, shuffling those up, and you're going to set up your river. And to do that, you just take the club and diamond deck, the river deck, and you make 5 rows of 4 cards each, because you all have 20 cards. Now the thing is, the top 2 rows will be revealed so you can see them, and the bottom 3 you cannot see them yet because you have not traveled far enough in the tunnel for your headlamp to show you what you can see yet. So those ones will not be revealed until you get closer as you travel down the river. Now, I know someone else like Uberdante would probably say I could automate all this stuff, but it's also good, I think, maybe to show you what you're actually in for in terms of how to set up the game when you're doing it physically. So then the other cards, so you have the diamonds and the clubs, and then for the movement deck over here, that's going to be the spades and the hearts. Oh, I also should mention that you take all the face cards out and the jokers out. So in the river deck, you had just ace through 10. Aces are 1 in this game. And in the movement deck of the hearts and spades, which look like up and down arrows, which will help you know what you're doing with the cards as you go down the river, those are also just ace through 10. So all the face cards are here. And we're just going to do a basic game. There's challenge modes where the different face cards can mean different things, depending on which one you pick. But for the basic game, you can just pick any one, doesn't matter. This represents your kayak. This is you going down the river. You put it at the top of the river. And then, let's see, what else do we need to do to set up? Then the next step is you draw a hand of 4 cards. So we have 4 cards here. This is our hand. Oh boy, looking a little rough to start here. Because to go down the river, you need hearts, which point down, and the spades point up. So we're going to have a tough time here first. We're going to have to do some things to work around that. But that's good, because then I can show you how the spades work. So to start the game, there's usually 4 things you do on each turn. One is to play a card to either stay where you are in the river with a spade, or you go move down the river with a heart. Then you orient your kayak, which I'll show you what that means. And then you reveal any rows if you've moved down the river. And then you draw back up to 4 cards. And you just have to make it to the end of the river before you can no longer draw any more from the deck. So on the first turn, we're not moving off any cards up here. so we don't actually have to play a card. All we have to do is pick which one we want to move on to start our run in the river here. And you know what? I think I am going to, since we don't have any hearts that are going to let us move down easily, I'm going to start here. So you don't play a card, you don't do that first step on the very first turn. And then step 2 is usually orient your kayak. Now what that means is you can have it so your kayak faces straight down. So if you were to move off this card next turn, you would move there. Or you can have it so that your kayak would face this way, so next turn it would go that way. You can also rotate it the other diagonal so it would face that way and go that way. So after you've moved on to a card, a new river card, the second step is to choose your orientation. And in order to choose to orient, you have to discard a card from your hand. And you know what? I think I will do that. So I'm going to discard this over here. And I'm going to change the orientation of this kayak card. So we're going to face that way. Now, that means next turn we'll be heading this way. So we've done the second step, and then the third step is to reveal new river cards. So you can always see, your headlamp can always shine so you can see 2 rows beyond where you are. So we reveal this now, because that would be the second row from where we are, and we can see what's coming up now. And then we draw back up to 4, and that's the end of that first turn. And another spade. Okay. So the idea of this game is to move off of the clubs. That's the currents. These are the currents bubbling in the river, and you need strength to overcome them. And so that means either if we want to stay on a club, that current, we need a strength of at least 4, which we have 3 cards. Good. You need a strength of at least 4 to stay on that card, and then you can reorient yourself if you need to, or just keep from losing. And then if you want to advance down the river, you would need a heart that is 4 or more to overcome that current. Or you're going to get stuck in an eddy and just be stuck in that part of the river. And then the diamonds, they are the rocks in the river. And to navigate them, you need precision. So that means you have to be exactly that number. So if I wanted to move off of the rock section, if I was on there, I would need and move farther down the river, I would need a 7 of hearts. Otherwise, I will pay a penalty. And we'll get to that when we get there. So maybe I'll make it so we have to do that at one point. But first, let's just show what happens on a current, the clubs. So now on a turn, we have to play a card. This is our second turn. So now we have to start playing cards. And we don't have any hearts, so we're not going to be able to move down the river, which is kind of a bummer. But we can stay up by playing a spade that is 4 or more. So we have 3 options here. I'm just going to use our 4. And when you choose to stay up in an area, that actually goes in a separate discard pile. And when you're just playing on the table or wherever you play, you won't have these little headings, discard and capsize. So I made the rule that you put the capsize discard pile horizontal so you can tell it separately. Because if you choose to stay up in the current section of the river that you're in 3 times, so you get 3 cards in the capsize section here, your kayak will capsize and you have to discard all those cards and you discard all your hand. So it's a kind of a big deal. You want to try and avoid that if you can. So staying up uses a lot of your energy and strength is the idea of that. Okay, so we've done our first step, which is play a card. So we're staying up. We're strong enough to stay up with our movement of 4 on a 4 club. So now we can choose to reorient our kayak. I still don't want to because I don't want to go to the rocks. But if I chose to reorient, the only thing I can't choose to reorient all the way over to the 3 of diamonds. You can only move one orientation of either from a diagonal to up and down or from up and down to a diagonal. So I could just adjust myself from facing the ace to the 7 of diamonds. But I don't want to reorient because it's going to be easier to get out of that ace current because all we need is any heart. Hopefully we draw a heart. So let's see what happens. We don't reveal. Oh, step 3 would be to reveal another river row, but we haven't moved, so we still can only see 2 down with our headlamp. So now we drop step 4 is drop back up to 4, and there finally is a heart. Great. So now our third turn starts again. We play a card. So now we can finally move down. So I'll play this heart. And you can choose to do a discard pile that you can't see if you want a harder game. If you want an easier game, you can choose to do a discard pile like this, kind of fanned out, so you can see what you've played and what options are still out there. That's perfectly fine too, if you don't want to make it a memory game. And so we've played that card to move. So we move off the 4. And step 2 would be to orient our kayak, which we need to do in this instance. So I'm showing here that you can't go off the edge of the river. There's a rock wall there. We're in a tunnel. So you can't go off the edge this way. So we have to choose to reorient ourselves. So we discard any card. And let's get rid of this too. Now we can move ourselves from a diagonal to up and down. And when I move on to a new river card, I like, rather than covering it up completely, I like to show a little bit of the card underneath so you know where you are. So we know that we're on an ace of clubs and what we need to do to be able to move off that. Otherwise, it'd be kind of fiddly of having to check under. So I recommend doing that. So that was our step 2 of orienting our kayak. Step 3 is to reveal river rows. If you have moved, we have. So now to see two rows down, our headlamp can shine on that. Got lots of rocks coming up. All right. And then step 4 is to draw back up to 4 cards. Wow, lots of spades here. Okay. There is a heart. And this is a tricky decision, but I'm just going to go straight so we can see what happens with diamonds. So if we were to play on our next turn this 8 of hearts, that is strong enough to overcome this current of the ace of clubs, because all we need is an ace or higher, which basically means any heart. So then we move on down onto this rocky diamond section here. We can choose to reorient our kayak, which I think I will in this instance, to give myself a better chance of getting a heart. So I'm going to discard this 7, and that can orient my kayak. There we go. Now he's going to be facing that way to go towards the 5. Step 3 is reveal the next river row. So we can always see 2 ahead. And now at this point, once you've revealed the last row, that's actually not the end of the river. You have to go 2 more rows. So what you have to do is take the top 2 rows that we've already been on and shuffle them up. But also you can take note of what's there so you know what's going to be coming up. Well, let's put them all together. And then we can flip the stack and shuffle it. Oops. Put it to the side, and then you drag everything up. In real life, send the cards up. And if you had a big table where you're playing real life, you could just add those top 2 rows to the bottom of this without having shifting, but I feel that the space that I play in feels better if I just have 5 rows at a time. And that jack was there. The kayak. And then we lay these out. And again, they are more than 2 rows away, so we cannot see them. It's too dark in the tunnel to see that far down. And that will be the last 2 rows that we need to get past to win the game. All right, so then we have revealed the river rows. So then the next step is to draw back up to 4. That's our 4th step. 9 and 3 of spades. All right, so on our next turn here, so let me show you what happens on diamonds now, because we've only moved off of clubs current, so we just had to have a number that was equal to or higher. Now with the diamonds, they are rocks. You need precision, like I mentioned before. So I could have 2 options here. I could choose to stay up, and the best option for that would be to use this 3, which is 1 off. yeah, let me do that to show you what happens there. Because if I use this 9 of hearts to move down, to move off of that down the river, I'd have to discard 5 cards face down from this deck, which is a pretty big penalty. Because you have to be exactly the number of the diamonds of the rock section. So let's see if we can get a better number maybe by using this 3 to stay up. And when you choose to stay up, you put it in the capsize row. And that lets us stay up on that section, but we were 1 off from the 4. So we have to discard as a penalty 1 card face down from our movement deck. Hopefully it wasn't a heart. Hopefully it was a spade, so we can have enough hearts to keep on moving down. Step 3 would be to reveal the next river row, which we didn't move, so we can still only see 2 away with our headlamp. Then step 4 is to draw up to 4. Let's see, do we get a heart that's closer to 4? 2. So this actually worked out. So instead of using that 9 last turn and having discard 5 cards, we used that 3, discarded 1 card. Now we can use this 2 to move off of that in this direction. And since that was 2 off from our 4, we had to discard 2 cards face down from our deck, which still isn't great, but having only discard 3 face down versus 5 is obviously better. So then our step 2 is to orient our kayak. And I don't want to orient towards the 10 of current, because that would be, we would only be able to get off that if we had a 10 of hearts, which I don't like the odds of us getting that necessarily. So let's stay how we're oriented. And step 3 is to reveal the next river row. So now we can see down here, because that's 2 away from us. That looks a little easier to navigate once we get down there. This next row is going to be a tricky one. And let's see, hopefully we get a heart here. 4, not strong enough to get off that current. Okay, so we will play this. So if I choose to stay up, let's just show what happens. So remember, to stay up, you play a spade, and it has to be on a club current, it has to be equal to or greater than the club. So this will be strong enough to keep us there. And that would go in our capsize row. Now we have 3 cards in our capsize row. So we were capsize, which means you discard all these 3 cards in the capsize row to that pile just to reset your capsize penalty. But then you would have to discard all the cards in your hand as well, which would not be great. So I would not do that, hoping to not have to capsize. Let me rotate back up here. So instead, let's use this 9 of hearts, because our 4 hearts is not strong enough to get across that 5 current. So we need something equal to higher. So we use the 9. Let's base on this card here. I'm just going to start a new row here. Still discard row though. And that lets us move onto this 8 of diamonds. And we're going to have to hope for another good one, because we already used our 8 of hearts over here. So I'm going to have to hope we can get a 7 maybe, so we only have to discard 1. Hopefully it wasn't in one of our face down discards. All right, so we moved. Step 2 is orient our kayak. We will do that because we will want to an easier club to move on to. So let's discard, well, in case we have to stay up. Oh, I don't know. It's gonna be rough either way, but let's discard this, which goes in our discard row to reorient. And we're gonna go from diagonal to up and down. There we go. So now we're on the 8 of diamonds. Because that way we reveal the last row. Oh, all rocks to end the game, huh? I don't know. I don't think we're going to win this one, folks, but you can see how the game plays at least. Then step 4 is to refill our, oh, and that might do it here. So we only have 3 cards left. I think we're just out of luck, because if we play this 4, that'd be 4 off from there. We'd have to discard 4 cards. We only have 3 cards in our deck, so we'd lose. And then the other thing would be to stay up with this 8, which is great. It's the same, so we wouldn't have to pay any penalty, except that would be our 3rd capsize card. So we would have to discard all these cards, and then we wouldn't have enough cards to make a 4 hand. So we have lost the game. Luckily, I imagine that there's a rescue crew around to rescue us from the river. But the idea is that you have to get, for a win, for a victory, let's say we had better cards. Oh boy, were all our hearts in those face down discards? Oh, there's our 7. So let's say we had gotten this instead. I don't think we would have been able to do it anyway. But let's say we had gotten that instead and see if we could still do it. So instead, I played this 7 to move. Oops, over here. And then that's 1 off from our 8. So we have to pay a 1 card discard, face down penalty. That moves us off. And you always pay the penalty before you move. That's important when you get to the end. And then we could reorient, which I think I am going to do. So let's discard this 10. Then we can face towards the easier 3 for us, at least, because the 3 of diamonds need to be precise, and we do have a 3 of hearts. Oh, we're going to run out of cards. We're still going to lose, but I'll show you anyway. So then there's no more river rows to reveal. So then we just go on to step 4, just fill up the 4 cards. And then we can play this card as 4, which is equal to or greater than the club. Move there. And then again, you can't move into a rock wall. So you would have to reorient to get out of here. Discard that. Now we're face down. Now it'd be looking good. This would be perfect if we had any cards to draw back up to 4 cards, but we don't. So again, we lose even with me cheating there. Now, if you want a super easy way to play, you could play, I guess, where you could play until you have no cards left in your hand either before you lose. But the standard way of this game being played is you lose once you cannot draw a card from the deck. So that's the basic idea of this game. Again, there's a challenge mode if you find you're looking for a little variety, where at the beginning of the game, rather than just choosing any face card or choosing your face card to be your kayak, you shuffle up the face cards and you draw one, and there's different goals that you have to do in the game dependent on the type of card. That's in the rules. I won't explain that right now. You can read it in the rules, and then you use the jokers to track those. That's why those are separate. But yeah, that's the basic idea of the game. It's good kind of resource management and risk taking. Push your luck, like, oh, am I going to be able to get the card I need? And then, yeah, with the hidden information of not knowing what's coming up in the river, except for those last 2 rows, which you've seen before, but you don't know what the order they'll be in. It's I enjoy the balance of preparing and planning and luck of the draw. So, and it's quick to play, as you've seen here. And hopefully this is good enough to get you going. If you have any questions, let me know. And I hope you enjoy the game. Thanks.